This is the toggle class challenge. At its core, it is straight DOM manipulation, which means that the candidate is going to attach event listeners to the buttons and then have to go up and down the DOM tree in order to change the color of this gray box, which is not the button, okay? In fact, if you're looking at it, you have a container. Inside of that is the box, and then the button comes last. Normally, we'd probably have the button first and the box last to make DOM manipulation a little bit easier. In this case, it's not, so we have to work around that. The task, attach a function to the buttons within each box container. Function should accept a single parameter, the CSS class name, and that should be toggled on each box sibling with an example of toggle class active. So just to test it, we can add active here. It turns the box purple, which is what we are trying to do. So getting right into it, we're gonna grab our buttons here. They are going to be on document query selector all. We're gonna grab them all. And the class name is button box toggle. Make sure I don't mistype that again. Wink, wink. And then, of course, all of our boxes like this, we're going to get those same sort of way. We can just grab this, copy, paste it, save ourselves some time. This one is going to be box, B-O-X. I can do that one. And now we need to attach the event listeners to the buttons. So buttons.forEach. We're going to get that button. We're going to do something to it here. Add the event listener. Here we go. Event listener dot click. And of course the callback like this. Console log hello. Wonderful. Clear this. If we click it, we get hello. We can go a little bit further by getting the index and adding that on the end here. Clear it again. And hello 0, hello 1, lots of ones, hello 2. Excellent. So we are getting pretty close here, pretty close. So at this point, we need to start adding something to get that toggle to work, okay? And the easiest way to do that is just to do something to figure out which box we're using, right? So we need to figure out which box we're using, and then from there we're going to add the class. Well, we know that for each button there is a single box. For each button there's a single box. We can grab the box, the current box, as boxes, index, right? Because it's a one-to-one relationship, so we can totally do that. And then from there, we can box.classList .toggle, and it's going to be active without the dot, okay? So if I've done this, I can now turn these on and off. Beauty, okay? Can't really have a single one, which is what the bonus is, only allow one to be active, but we're getting there. So from here, we can start to add in code that lets us decide, or that lets us turn this off when we select a different one, okay? So if I select the first one, the second one should turn off. So we can totally do that with another for each, right? We already have boxes, so we just go boxes dot for each, and we're going to grab that and call it box. That is a terrible name, but because I'm already using box, so let's go bx. I got nothing here. Bx idx, the index. We'll use that in a second. Just like this, keep going. So for each box that has a class of active, we are going to turn it off. Well, we already have the box, so we can just go bx dot class list dot remove, and turn it off. So if I do that, and this is all working, I get that, and it moves just like so, okay? So no problems there. That all works pretty good actually, but it's not as clean as it could be, okay? There are some things that we can do here. For one, it's asking us to do a function. We do have a function in this callback, but we can make it better. So we can go and grab this just like this, copy, put it up here, function toggle class. Excellent. Paste it all in. We need that index. We need to get it from somewhere. So we'll come back to this in a second. But for now, I just want to go toggle class of index. Okay. And that should just keep things working. Now there's a weird thing where I can't turn it off. How interesting, right? Well, that's because as we're doing this, we have this, this index here, and it's kind of messing us up. We are removing the class, and then we are immediately turning it back on. So we only want to do this if these two indexes don't match, okay? So really quickly, if bx idx, whoops, put it in parentheses, does not equal index, then remove that class, okay? And if I've done this right, it should just go back to working. I can turn that off and on. Super. So we have a function and it works. Still not quite what we want, because remember, we want to be able to pass a single parameter that is a CSS class name. And right now, we are definitely not doing that, okay? If I remove index from here, the entire thing kind of blows up. So the way to fix this is with the keyword this. So I could make all the jokes in the world about this, but we're just going to use it, okay? So for now, I'm going to get rid of this. Oh, I totally just went into that, didn't I? And from there, we need to be able to get this box. Now, the cool thing is, if I bring this one back for a second, we can test this. It's going to be jokes all around, isn't it? So here is this. And if I click, and it doesn't completely blow up, there it goes. Clicking should give me a really long thing. I can bring up the actual tools, and it shows me window, okay? So right now, while I'm in this function, it's showing me window. Now, I don't want window, I want whatever actually called the function. And with arrow functions, you don't get that scope. You only get the highest level scope, which in this case is window. So the caller is the button, and I don't get that here. I can do that by changing the function from an arrow function to an anonymous average function, for lack of a better word. Clear this out, hit it again, and now I get that button, okay? If I take this same thing and I put it up top inside of toggle class, I'm going to make this a little bit different by saying fn, just like this, so we can see it. Clean that out. Oh, too long again. What's up with that, right? Well, again, we get that button, but down in here, it's the window again. And that is because even though the button calls this function, the button does not call this function. This function calls this function. A whole lot of this, okay? So the anonymous function calls the toggle class function. And that is, it doesn't have any scope, so it reverts to window, okay? Button for the function, button is here. That's good. But because function calls toggle class, we don't get that same benefit, okay? Now we can fix that by either binding or just calling this directly. Remember, we're calling this function, we get this. We're calling this function, we aren't. So if we take this out and remove this whole function and just go toggle class, things are going to blow up for a minute. But if I scroll up, I get function button. So now inside of my function, I know what this is, and I can operate on that. So I can start to change things out by using this as my pointer, as my key reference. So instead of box's index, I just want to get this box, which is what? This dot parent element dot previous element sibling, I think is what it is. I always forget this one. So previous element sibling, just like this, gets the box. We can test that just by getting rid of this for a second. And things should work. They do not. Why do they not? Box class list. So this parent element, previous element sibling. Sometimes I get this wrong. Oh, you know what? I got it. Right, because I'm jumping ahead of myself. So it should be first element sibling, which allows it to turn on and off, just like this. And then, of course, I was going to cover that off by saying you could remove both these and go previous element sibling. This is me getting ahead of myself because I've done this a few times now. Previous element sibling does exactly the same thing. So we're almost there. We need to clean this up a little bit. Boxes is no longer a thing that we actually need. Instead, what we need to figure out is if anywhere inside of here we have an active class. Okay, so we can get active and make that equal to document.querySelector. Learn to type. Dot active. And if there's an active, right? So if anywhere inside of here we get an active class, we want to do something. If active, we want to toggle it off, right? We've already done that. That's right here. Let's just go ahead and help ourselves to a little bit of free copy and paste. And now that should allow us to get rid of this. It doesn't allow us to turn it off yet, but we're almost there. The reason it doesn't allow us to turn it off is because we haven't tested if this is the active one. Well, we can do that using contains. So on class list, we have another property, another method called contains, and we can say if not this box class list dot contains active, just like this, then we remove it. Okay, so right here, clicks off, clicks on, get rid of this. 375 changes is a lot. Haven't done a lot of saving, that's okay. And now we are so close, aren't we? I mean, we don't need index anymore. We can get rid of that. We don't really need this console log statement. We do have document query selector. It would be nice if we could get rid of this and just use this reference. We totally can. We just go this dot parent element dot parent element. Okay, and what this does is it says, hey, wherever this is, you're going to go up one to the box container, and then you're going to go up to whatever the next one is. Currently that's body, but this could be wrapped in a div of some kind or a different container of some kind. So parent, and then we're going to query back down to get that active. And now everything is close. So close. At this point, we need that class back in. We wanted to be able to pass the class name in. So we're going to do that right here. Can I? Oh, I totally can. It's always nice when you get multiple cursors. Class name, I think there's one more. There totally is. This one has a dot. So we need to do something special here, which is not special at all. It's just concatenation, but there we go. So class name. Now, how do we get the class name in? Because if we put it here, like this, active, the whole thing kind of breaks down. Okay, it's going to scream bloody murder, and it's going to say, oh, I don't know what this is. Okay, that's what this undefined is saying. It's saying, I don't know what this is. And that's because when we hit it, right now, we aren't just pointing to the function, we are calling the function, which means that we aren't clicking on the button to call the function. It's happening automatically. And it's the equivalent of returning. What does a function with no return have? Yeah, it returns void. Okay, so we've returned void here, which means that we don't really have anything. More importantly, because this was called from the window, it was implemented on load, this is not where we want it to be. So it can't find previous element sibling. It can't find the parent element because right now it's pointing to window again, and we need to fix that. We can fix that by going bind and adding our own this. Now we can't just go with this. This is something else, remember? Instead we need to say it's going to be the button. Okay, and now we're back to normal. Great. So what have we done? We have cleaned this up a lot. We have made it so that this function is pretty much self-contained, even to the point where if I go and grab this, just copy and paste it, and do an HR here, and paste another one, and do an HR here. Oh, I did that wrong. Let me go and back up for a second. If I wrap this in a dot container, there we go. And now I go and copy and paste this, and HR, paste, HR, paste, okay. Everything's gonna break because that HR is doing weirdness. But now if I change body to container, it should kind of jump back. And each one of these should be isolated. So I can click here, I can click over here, just like this. And it's, it's completely isolated, which is really, really nice. It uses bind. If you wanted to work on it just a little bit further, if someone got to this point, that's amazing. But if you wanted to work on it a little bit further, you could say, hey, you know, the idea was to pass this toggle class active, not toggle class bind button and active, okay? So we can go back to here. Things are going to break. It's not going to work right because it can't find this, okay? But remember that we need button to click in order to get the right this context. So in order to pass it in like this, the best way to do this, or one way to do this, is to use a closure. Spell it right, C-L-O, like this, closure. And a closure is basically a function that returns another function, and the information is passed into that other function. So we can just go return this function. It's going to be completely anonymous. It doesn't even matter. We paste everything in here. And now what we get is toggle class, where we pass in active right here, and it returns a pointer to a function that is going to lean on that class name. Now, toggle class actually goes away as soon as it's invoked, but the active sticks around in the closure so that we can keep using this, and everything works brilliantly. So a lot of interesting stuff happening here. And if you take this at literal face value, it's saying, you know, create a function, and that function should take a CSS class name, and it should toggle on the box element, okay? And then from there, it gives you this very literal example of toggle class active. And what we've done is we've refined this down to the point where, yeah, we can totally do that. We have toggle class active, it gets passed in, and it is completely compartmentalized so that we can have multiple box containers or containers with a series of boxes in them that toggle on and off. So that's it. That's a very long-winded tour, a long road to get here, but pretty cool to see things like closures in here and binding and this, all to make the code easier to maintain and easier to use. I don't expect any candidate to actually get this far along, but if they do, that sounds like auto-hire to me. Let me know what you think. Send me messages. And if you have any questions, I am all ears. Oh, and for the record, this line can go away too. Just like that. Still works. Later all.